All right, here we are in Substance Painter. And I think the first thing we need to do is bring in those FBX files. So let's begin by coming up here to File and New. And then we need to choose Select to browse to our FBX files. So I'll choose the Vehicle01 FBX. Let's go ahead and work on the main vehicle right up front here. Let's click Open. Now, when I work in Substance Painter, I usually just set all the document resolutions to 4096 to 4K. And that ensures that everything's at a good resolution here while you're working and moving around in the 3D viewport here. And then when you save your textures out, you can save them to any size that you may need for your particular game project. So if you need your textures to be at 1024 or 2048, you can export them out at the very end as those specific resolutions. But while I work in here, I try and keep everything at 4096. It just tends to look better. So I'll click OK. And here we go. So the navigation in Substance Painter is a little different than Blender. If you've used it before, you know that it's just the Alt key. You push the Alt key and left mouse click to tumble, Alt key middle mouse to pan, and the Alt key right mouse button to zoom. Or you can, of course, scroll the mouse wheel. So this is really the same navigation that you'd find in Unity or Maya. So it's just a little different than Blender. So periodically you may see me hitting the wrong key here when I'm trying to tumble or pan. All right, so now that our vehicle is here in Substance Painter, you can see what we were talking about with the texture sets, that each one of the materials that we created in Blender now has come through as an individual texture set. And even though we haven't created any textures yet, let me just show you what I mean by if we export the textures, you get a collection of textures for each texture set. Now, there are quite a few here. We'll eventually change this to Unity Standard Metallic here. And you can see that each one of these has 3 or 4 textures per texture set. And that's what I mean by trying to limit the number of materials in Blender, because you're going to have a lot of textures to deal with if you don't. All right, so I'll go ahead and cancel this because we're not going to be exporting textures for a while. But let's begin work on just the vehicle first. I'll turn off all these other texture sets and just work with the vehicle. Now, the first thing we have to do in Substance Painter is to bake our textures. And Substance Painter will then use all of the baked textures to create the look of the material, the dirt or the ambient occlusion or whatever. It will use all of the texture maps to build that specific look for the texture that you're trying to create. So we need to bake all the textures first. So I've hidden everything here, but I want to show you a little quirk here with baking the texture maps. So first of all, we want to come over here to this texture set settings, and in this tab here, we've got Bake Mesh Maps. So we want to open this up, click here, and of course I want to change my output size while we're working here in the Substance Painter to 4096. But here's what I want to show you. Look at what it says, Bake Glass Mesh Maps. But we've got the vehicle enabled. The problem is, it depends on which of the texture sets you actually select over here. It doesn't matter which one you have enabled or visible. It only matters which one you select. And personally, I think that's a little kludgy. I think that needs to be fixed. But you need to be sure and select the proper texture set as well as making it visible. All right, so now that we've done that, let's click Bake Mesh Maps. Change this to 4096. And there really isn't anything else we need to do here except maybe turn on anti-aliasing. This will help clean up some of the corners. And the higher you get, the cleaner it'll be. However, the longer it will take. I'm going to go ahead and go with this 4x4. It's going to take a while, so I may have to pause the video here and then come back, but let's give it a try. I'll click Bake Vehicle Mesh Maps now because we have the vehicle selected over here. Let's click that, and here it goes. So it's first going to create the normal maps, the vehicle and the world. Then it'll work on the color ID map, the ambient occlusion, and the curvature, position, and thickness. I just want to show you what it does with the vehicle ID. You can see now it's building that color map that we created with Vertex Paint in Blender. So that's why we went through all the trouble so that Substance Painter would have that vehicle ID, would have that color ID map to use while we built our textures. All right, this is still going to take a while, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and come back when it's done. All right, the maps have been baked. Let's go ahead and click OK, and there we go. It doesn't look too much different than it did, but if we come over here to this Texture Set tab and scroll down a bit, you can see all the maps here that's been created. Now what let's do is begin building our textures in the Layers panel here. Let me move this down some. We don't need this initial layer. I'm going to go ahead and click the trash can to delete that. The way I usually work is I create groups here in the layer stack, and each of those groups I assign a different color from the color ID map that we created. So initially, let's work on that main tan color. I'm going to create a group here by clicking this, add a folder. We'll call this vehicle. And now we need to drag something into that group, into that folder. Down here, I'm going to look for what I've got for metal here. I've got a coated metal. This actually might work pretty well. It's already fairly close to the color that we want. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag it in. Now, let me also mention that this may not be a standard color. This may be one that I've downloaded from Substance Source. And in fact, it has a little icon here which tells me that, yeah, that's what I did. I downloaded this from Substance Source. So let's go ahead and open that up. I'll come over here to this button right here and click, and this is Substance Source, where you can download all kinds of new materials for your projects. And it looks like I went ahead and searched for metal here and then scrolled down and found that coated metal in here. However, look at this. We've got car paint metallic matte dusty. That may be what we want. I mean, this is kind of a desert vehicle. Let's click this and see what we can see here. Yeah. See, I kind of like that. That's not bad. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click on the download button here, and let's go ahead and load it in and see what we can do with it. All right, I'll go back to Substance Painter. It has it highlighted here. Let's go ahead and drag that in right into here, and it will think a minute and then apply it to everything. And that's not exactly what we want. We don't want it applied to our headlights and black plastic and things like that, or the windows. So we're going to need to split this up based on the color ID map. To do that, what we need to do is come back to the group here and right click it, and then come up here and choose Add Mask with Color Selection. And if we click that, now we've got this color selection layer right in the middle there. And if I come over here to the Properties panel that says Color Selection, we've got a pick color here. And as soon as I click that, we get our old color map that we created in Blender. Now I can choose it by color. I can choose the red, the green, the pink, the blue, but let's choose green here. I'm just going to click on the green, and there we go. So now it isolates it to just that part. Now I'm not sure that this is going to work. Let's go to the actual material here. And in the Properties panel for the material, we've got quite a lot that we can do here. Let's scroll down and see what kind of properties we have. We've got dust intensity here. Got the color of the dust. No, so I think what we should do is work with the color here, the main color. So first of all, what let's do is let's find a color for this main color. What I've got is a couple of images that I want to sample the colors off of, and they are right back here. I've just kind of put them right back here. So you can see this paint color here, and what I want to do is just sample this. Sample a color off of this here. right in here. I'm going to go back to Substance Painter, come into this color swatch here and click, and then I've got an eyedropper here. And if I click and hold, I can come over here and you can see it change as I hover over colors in the photo. And I think maybe I might want, I might want a color kind of like this, I think. Let me try this. I'll let go of the mouse, and there we go. The dust here, then, maybe we could reduce the dust intensity some. See what we get with that. And move this down a little more. No, I don't think I like where this is going right now. I think we're going to have to do a lot of work to get it to be like this. So what I'm going to do is just select this, and I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to try that other one that we looked at. Let me click the trash can here. Let's come back down here, type in metal, and I'm going to try this coated metal now. I'm going to drag it right onto the group here and drop it. And now it's being affected by that color selection layer, so we're getting it only on the body of the vehicle here. So now for the color, let's once again open this color swatch, click on the eyedropper and come over here, and let's find a color like this. Let's do that. And then let's work on the parameters for this. What do we have here? Well, we've got the scale right here. Let's bring up this UV scale and make that a little bit smaller here. Let's maybe take it up to, let's try 8. That's pretty small, okay. And then let's scroll down, and we could reduce the flake intensity. Let's try that. Let's bring that down some. Yeah, so it just gives it a little bit of texture in there. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I was just afraid that we'd have to work too hard to get to this point on that other material. Maybe I'll even bring the value down in the color just a little bit. Maybe something like that. All right, well, I think that's looking pretty good so far. That's a good beginning. In the next video, what let's do is let's use a generator to create some dirt and dust around the corners and in the nooks and the crannies of the vehicle.